A couple years ago, Justin Reedy was asked where the authority for the Maryland income tax in the Maryland Constitution was, and the sales tax. This gentleman says he's going to eliminate or repeal the income tax. So the question was, where in the Maryland Constitution is the income tax or sales tax authorized? And here's the the question was proposed to the Attorney General of Maryland: where in the Maryland Constitution is the income tax and the sales tax authorized? We're a country of laws, the last time I checked. So here's a letter. Here's the answer from the Attorney General.
Running for governor.
Well, this is actually written by Brian O'Liner, Assistant Attorney General, counsel to the Comptroller, and he says, there is no specific provision of the Maryland Constitution that establishes a sales or income tax or explicitly states that the sovereign may assess such a tax. Can someone explain that for me? Let me read it again. Someone try to explain it to me. There is no specific provision of the Maryland Constitution that establishes a sales or income tax or explicitly states that the sovereign may assess such a tax. Anybody want to take a shot at trying to explain that? There is no specific provision. They can't cite any law. So well, if nobody wants to answer it, I'll answer. There's no specific provision in the Maryland Constitution that establishes sales or income tax. There is no law. That the sovereign, there is no specific provision that explicitly states that the sovereign may assess such a tax. The sovereign. The state is the sovereign. Nonetheless, who gives a rat's ass? There's no law. Nonetheless, the power of taxation is a basic attribute of sovereignty, and as such, a sovereign power fundamental to the existence of government. So, we'll read it again. Nonetheless, because this stuff is important, the details of these lawful discussions. Nonetheless, there is no specific provision, but nonetheless, the power of taxation is a basic attribute of sovereignty, and as such, a sovereign power fundamental to the existence of government. So in other words, we have a king. The state is the sovereign, not the people. The state is the sovereign here, and we don't have to have a law. It's a power of taxation is a basic attribute of sovereignty. This power is inherent. The power is inherent. I thought we were a country of laws. Anything anything in the law must be written in the constitutions. All laws must be written in pursuant of those constitutions. The power is inherent, and though it may be limited by the state's constitution, so now he's saying it's limited somehow when there is no provision. How's it limited if there's no provision? This is your Attorney General. This is typical of everywhere. Right here in your own county they don't know at the resolution whether the First Amendment says, nor restricting the free exercise thereof. The power is inherent, and though it may be limited by the state's constitution, it does not require express authority. It does not require any law of the Constitution to exist. The most often cited reference in Maryland for the authority of the state to impose tax comes from the Court of Appeals in Osler versus Towles, decided in 1940. So this goes on, and I just wanted to share that with you. These guys want to repeal. They want to repeal a law that doesn't exist because the income tax. Oh, that's right. I forgot this point. It's very important. This is a cool point that in 1937, the only way they will authorize an income tax in the state of Maryland is by constitutional amendment. Since there's no specific law, the only way to make a law in Maryland in the Constitution is to amend the Constitution, it's like the federal Constitution. So they're all the same way. The founders were brilliant. Not brilliant, but they were smart. They set in all this stuff. They did the right thing. In 1937, an amendment was proposed to the Maryland Constitution to authorize an income tax. It was voted down. It's on the record. You can look it up for yourselves. In 1937, an amendment was proposed for an income tax and was voted down. So you don't repeal. A lot of people say you repeal Obamacare. You repeal the income tax. You repeal this. You repeal that. When there's no constitutional authorization, It's a nullity. You don't repeal it, you nullify it.
I wish everybody knew that.
Well, like I was telling this gentleman tonight, I believe he's a good man, and we have to start putting the Constitution. If we want to take this country back to free markets, sound money, and contracts and all that, we have to start. Unfortunately, or fortunately in my case, because I happen to like studying law, I think it's like Noah Webster stated, the study of jurisprudence next to that of theology is most important and helpful to men.
George, can you,
Well, unfortunately, we have to be trained in the law today to bring this thing around.
can you get in touch with the candidates that are running for governor and ask them that question?
I gave this letter to Mr.
Did you? Let us know. We
Craig.
can get a reply.
Well, he's got a good man as an assistant there. He's a Facebook friend of mine, and he understands all this, the implications of what I'm saying. They get it. It's not rocket science once you explain it a little bit.
Do anything about it?
Generally not. It's like our local politicians. They're not, I've asked all of them to put the Constitution's forefronts, like with Steve Powell, where's the constitutional authority for these things? I haven't picked the Constitution up in 14 years. Well, ask your local commissioners, are they checking the Maryland Constitution, the authority for any action in the county? Other than if they do, they find, like with the social programs and such, you think the founders and framers authorized welfare in their constitutions? There is no authority for all this welfare. Social Security, the whole thing, And actually, studying into Social Security, the Social Security number is like the mark of the beast, I'm sorry. And it is not imposed on citizens by law because of the Constitution. It's quite a story if you guys want to hear it sometime. Explain what they did with Social Security to get us in that number for the New World Order. To be using that number, it was a setup. They contrived the banking crisis. They brought the people to their knees. Here, we have something for you, old age retirement. We'll take care of you. You won't have to worry. We got hoodwinked. But be that as it may, those of us who understand these things have studied particularly federal tax law, the Social Security issue. We don't advocate taking it all away now, but you must understand the constitutions don't authorize this, and those who want to start dropping out and eventually wean ourselves from this socialist program and return to freedom, we'd be much better off if we hadn't gone down the Social Security road. It's hard to fathom for a lot of people that we could live without it now because it's so entrenched. But freedom actually is the best path.
Would they stop charging the Social Security taxes and FICA and all that stuff?
Well, eventually, if you want to return to freedom and get the government out of your lives, which is what should be, that was the Jefferson. I was explaining to these gentlemen when they were leaving. The Jefferson put it so well: you would never feel the hand of government until a neighbor injured one another, and you could use the courts.
Yeah.
So like in Carroll County, I keep telling everybody, we don't need county commissioners, we don't need a county executive, we need a free market, the courts, and a sheriff.
Why are you not running for office?
I'm just not going to.
Do we have any lawyers in this group?
I don't think so.
No.
I was going to say, if we had a lawyer, we could launch a lawsuit against the state of Maryland. Nullifying a lot of the bills just passed. The bad one.
Well, unfortunately, with all these ideas like that, we don't have the public support. It's like Scott Strelzik's Western Maryland Initiative. Well, you got no chance of going anywhere because you need 30 million people, not 3,000. You don't even have 300. You need large numbers of people wanting this freedom, this liberty that the founders and framers put down for us.
Who's going to be opposed to canceling our taxes?
Who's going to be opposed to?
Who's going to be opposed except maybe Laura City? Who's going to be opposed to PJ?
Well, it's like what I'm talking up here. I've been a lonely man for many, many years. It's a lonely walk, this idea of individual liberty. It's a tremendous amount of responsibility to take care of yourself. Not many people want that or want to promote it. And I'm telling you, if we're going to turn this mess around, we have to use the law, and we have to have it solidified by the idea of liberty. Well, I sound like a broken record. I'm sorry, but I got this. I can't unring this bell.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, it's like me and Bob. Man, I scream at him all morning long. Bob, Bob, tell him.
How much of history do you know?
How much history do I know? Not much. I don't know much of anything, but I know when I'm getting lied to.
Let's talk about the French Revolution. Let's talk about the American Revolution.
Good to see you. See you, George.
How was freedom won?
Pow.
Okay,
Hey, I'm all for it. It's the last resort.
that means
We agree.
a bunch of folks got a lot of weight to lose. They got to get themselves in physical condition and train.
And maybe win that AR.
It's an idea.
I'm with it.
Because quite frankly,
Well-
when I'm looking around this county, I see a lot of people out of shape that I wouldn't march into battle with. You better be ready for the fight.
Well,
You can't talk about it, you gotta walk the walk.
I know what you're saying. Like I say, I like the peaceful solution. I like the law.
But history shows me something different.
Well, I completely...
Prepared to take it when it comes to that.
You know we're in complete agreements. The Second Amendment is the last resort when tyranny can't be rectified by peaceful means. It's like out the Bundy thing there in Nevada. Thank God those people are armed. That helped to calm that situation down.
It helped, it did it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you, George.